Greetings, listeners. Welcome to Consulting Between Friends. I'm your host, Michael Holmes Jr. The one behavior that affects everyone is stress. Stress is something that can affect your health overall from the way you function in your daily routine. The people you come in contact with every day can cause an attack to trigger your stress on a particular thought or a situation you run across. Stress can cause problems personally, socially, and mentally. This episode, I will break down what causes stress and what can prevent stress. Along with this episode, I will be interviewing a licensed clinical social worker by the name of Victor Sims Sr. He will give professional advice and as well helpful information to benefit everyone who deals with stress in their lives. The topic is how stress affects you and how to overcome it. We will return after a message from our sponsor. Everyone is always planning things, and advertising is needed to make it happen. So, if it's personal or business, let Pinpoint Designs and Images solve that problem. With Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC, you will receive quality work and professional service at a great price. The service that is offered: flyers, business cards, programs, invitations, photo books, ad booklets, and much more. Michael Holmes Jr., owner/principal designer of Pinpoint Designs and Images LLC, contact me by email or social media. Email address is pinpointdesignsandImages@gmail.com, and Instagram Pinpoint Designs, and Facebook Pinpoint Designs and Images. We are back. When you think about the word stress, a lot comes to mind. You could be dealing with stress at work. For example, a major project is due at work, and it requires a lot of concentration. Problems from different coworkers who may get on your nerves about particular situations. Personal problems that affect your daily routine. Relationships with your current or married partner about different ways of thinking about a situation. Family life requires a lot of attention to different problems and having a solution for the situation. Your personal life may not be going the way you planned. Financial problems that create a challenge for your current and future goals. A great example is the pandemic, being isolated from people or things that you enjoy in your life. Having stress at work is not a good thing. You may start to feel unappreciated for the work you do every day. You may feel you need to find another job or another solution to not feel as stressed while working. Your coworkers can have an effect on you while you work because they may pressure you while you're completing a task. Your personal life can have an effect on you in how you start your day. If you have something on your mind before starting your day or before going to sleep, it can affect you until you can resolve it. If you are in a relationship, you will feel stressed out about money problems, appreciation among one another, or making the right choices on different things, dealing with each other family relatives. If you have kids, attempting to provide a life to them that you believe they should have, also raising them to be the best and successful person they can be. If you are working on some personal goals and you did not achieve them, you might just give up. Having the feeling about giving up a task or a dream is very stressful. Maybe you are out of work and you have bills that are due, rent, car insurance, and anything else that ties your mind up. If you are single or feeling you are alone, even in a relationship, feeling alone sometimes is very depressing. No one to talk to and share your thoughts and dreams with. This feeling can be very hurtful to yourself. If you are single and do not have a partner to share your life with and maybe have some children together and to create a family, if you are in a relationship with your married partner and not feeling wanted and needed to continue a life together, maybe one partner decides to separate for a while. This can be a stressful situation. Not being accepted by or wanted by different people and your closest family. This problem can cause conflict among you and others around you. This will leave you feeling depressed and have questionable thoughts about yourself. All that I mentioned are situations and examples of stress related issues that we may be experiencing or someone we know around us. Next, I will talk about how to overcome your stress with yourself. When you feel stressed out, you are unable to think clearly. Your mind wanders with multiple thoughts and create multiple problems as you function. There are things you can do to change this outcome with stress. I will list some things that you can do to overcome your stress. 1. Listening to your favorite music can relieve your stress. 2. Working out your problems by yourself is one way to resolve the problem. 3. Telling someone you trust your problems can help you out. 4. Having a healthy diet can relieve your problem. 5. Listening to something that makes you laugh can take your mind off your problem. 6. Relaxation ease the mind. For example, exercising controls the body mood. 7. Sleeping more can prevent stressful situations. This is the way the body recharges itself back to normal. 8. Drinking liquids with antioxidants and amino acids can create calm in your mind. After a short break, we will return. We are back. Before the interview begins, I want to give you a background on how I know Victor Sims Sr. We belong to the same church, which is St. Joseph the Worker Catholic Church in Murrieta, Louisiana. Also, we belong to the same ministry in the church, which is the health ministry. Next, I will discuss his profession, which is a social worker. He is a licensed clinical social worker in Louisiana. He has his own business, which is Sims Social Services, LLC, in Gretna, Louisiana. He devotes time to inform and educate people on mental health. He has appeared on WBOK 12:30 a.m. in New Orleans, Louisiana, as a monthly radio guest specialist. Healthcare providers educational presentations AKULA Foundation, and Great Day, Louisiana with Malik Mingo. My guest for today is Victor Sims Sr., licensed clinical social worker. Welcome to Consulting Between Friends.
Thank you. Thank you. You're more than welcome. I'm glad to be here.
At this time, I would like you to give a brief description of how you got to where you're at now and
Okay.
your profession.
Okay. As brief as possible, I initially started out working in the inpatient psychiatric unit and doing my pre days of having a degree. And I worked there for about 12 years, working with a lot of psychiatrists and social workers, where I fell in love with the art of psychology. From that point on, I attended Southern University in New Orleans to pick up a bachelor's degree and social work, focusing on mental health. And I went back to school to pick up the bachelor's degree and social work again focusing on mental health. 4 years of undergraduate, 2 years of graduate, and then I went to 3 years of study after post graduation to become a licensed clinical social worker. What that is that an individual has the ability within the state of Louisiana to assess, diagnose, and treat mental disorders within the state independently. Since that time, I've also become a board approved clinical supervisor, which says I now can train individuals to become licensed clinical social workers. And during that period of time, I started my own company because I worked at West Jefferson Mental Jefferson Hospital, and I ran the inpatient psychiatric hospital for a couple of years. Also started a number of different programs to help for more assistance with individuals with mental health issues. I retired from there in '08 and started my own company, Sim Social Services, which I'm currently running. We have like 14 employees, and we treat together with my individual clients and the clients from my employer. We treat like 150 different people on a weekly basis, to assist them in dealing with the stresses and strains of life, the stresses and strains of growing up, of stress and anxiety that take place within the society that we currently live in.
Well, I just like how you explain yourself and everything that you do. And I also like that you say you open up your own business going forward with your profession.
Yeah. It was not something that I initially started out to do, but it just sort of rolled into that direction. And the
Mhm.
more I saw others doing it, and really my passion was to provide the highest level of services to those individuals who are seeking mental health assistance. That was my passion.
Mhm.
And I just felt that I run into a lot of individuals. Unfortunately, I wouldn't make put a bad word on some of my profession. Some of the individuals I watch in the field really wasn't doing it the way I thought it needed to be done. And I
Mhm.
recognize that as long as I continue to work under someone else's auspices, I would be under that. Now, I'm not saying that the people I work for was not pliable to my suggestions and ideas, because, like I said, I started two programs, actually three programs, for the institution, and they went well. They grew well. So upon my retirement, I said, okay, I don't want to stop. I mean, you know, just don't want to stop. So let me do it for myself. And I have to say, it was a little nerve wracking, because when you use that check coming every 2 weeks,
Uh-huh.
now you have to eat what you kill.
Yes.
And it was a little nerve wracking. And I told myself I'm gonna give myself 6 months doing private practice. And if I can't, because I think I had enough cash on the hand to take care of my necessities up to 6 months. And that was in March of '08 is when I went into my own private practice strictly. And I'm still here. So it worked out pretty good. So and that's how I got to where I am. My biggest thing is, again, to provide the highest level of service to the clients that I treat, to give them the best possible, to help them have the best lives they can have, and learn new skills to deal with the stresses, the anxieties, the difficulties that our society presents upon us on a daily basis.
Well, you gave a whole lot of information, and I like how you just said everything. So one thing before I go and start doing the interview, I want
Yeah.
you to go ahead and say what services that you offer at your office.
Okay. At my office, I do individual and private therapy. I see individuals for anxiety and depressive problems, marital problems, conflict problems. I specialize in aggressive behaviors. I have an anger management program and a domestic violence program where I help perpetrators. I purposely target perpetrators because if I figure if I can get a perpetrator to alter their behavior, they won't take their behavior to another environment.
Mm.
So I'm not. I will treat a victim to assist them in their depressive moods and their reactive responses to help them redevelop a sense of self-esteem and that whatever transpired with them was not their fault. But
Hmm.
I do really, this is going to sound strange, I really like perpetrators because those individuals who also slip through the cracks of our society and
Hmm.
develop that aggressive approach to them not being able to address uncomfortable emotions or not getting their way within our society. So I feel if I can assist that person in altering their behavior, people down the line will not be abused. And that's my biggest goal is to prevent that type of behavior from existing, to educate individuals on there are multiple ways to try to get your needs met. But one of the realities of life is no one's going to get everything they want. So dealing with disappointment is a part of our life. But
Hmm.
these individuals, based upon some of their developmental difficulties or their child rearing issues, might not recognize that. They might feel as though they have to get what they want or else. So
Hmm.
my job is to come in and show them another way, a more what I would identify as a more realistic method of dealing with other people within our society. And I also have about 50 employees. They go out into the field and they work with individuals with some of the same problems. The majority of those clients are adolescents. So we
Hmm.
work with them on disruptive behaviors, conflict behaviors, opposition defiant behaviors, school difficulties. We work with them on trying to improve some of their behaviors so they never get to me or they never get to Tulane and Broad or down to Durbin Street into the
Hmm.
jailhouse Durbin Street. We're trying to avoid those type of things. In a nutshell, we're trying to avoid headlines. We can prevent headlines and give an individual an option that they can take control of their lives. We think that's a much better method than to allow them to grow up developing behaviors that's going to eventually end them up with serious consequences.
I like how you just said all that.
Thank you. It's a passion. It's not just because, to be honest with you, Mike, I never go to work. I never go to work. I go to do what I enjoy doing.
Well, that's a good thing to hear. Okay, well, we about to get this started. What causes the body to develop stress and what makes the body feel stress?
Okay. Basically, living within the society that we live in is a basic general precondition of stress because we all have needs and desires. And I'm saying needs and desires, not just wants and wishes.
Hmm.
And when we are unable as human beings to have those needs and desires met, we begin to develop a stressful reaction. Basically, discomfort. That's from the time that we come out of our mother until this very moment. A lot of developmentalists, and the one that I focus a great deal on, because I think see his research a lot more than I see others, is Eric Erickson's stages of human development, which starts at birth, and he calls it trust versus mistrust. What is the mistrust? Well, if the baby is hungry and cries and don't get fed well, that means the environment is not responding to me. If
Hmm.
I have and it's messy and I don't feel comfortable, then the environment is not responding to me appropriately. So I develop a stress. And I can begin as a human being to distrust my environment because my environment is not meeting my needs. Now, as we grow older in life and we start running into more complicated interactions with other people, family members, schoolmates, teachers, then we begin to have interaction with other individuals. Again, a lot of our wishes, wants, and desires are not going to be met, or we have to adhere to other people obtaining their wishes, wants, and desires beyond my own. Thus, I generate a stressful response. And stress is that reaction to the environment not behaving as I would like it to behave. And there's another stress we're going to talk about later on that's actually a positive stress. But we're going to talk about that one later. What generates that? But at this point in time, the stress or distress is generated by my environment colliding with my wishes, wants, and desires.
So, according to your environment, it will affect your stress level.
Yes, every single day of our lives, it will affect our stress level.
Well,
And to know your stress level is very important. We can talk about, as we go on the interview, how to recognize signs of stress. Because sometimes we don't recognize. Some individuals are under a certain amount of stress for such a long period of time, it literally becomes normal.
normal. Oh, nah, I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Some people they're just used to being in an uncomfortable situation because that's what they may have been in since they reached puberty. Things not going their way, not getting good grades in school, having poor parenting situations, having conflicts within the environment, being in a household where there's domestic violence or substance abuse, and that individual can learn to adjust to that level of stress and anxiety and exist in it for a while until it becomes overwhelming. And
Mm.
once it becomes overwhelming, then changes in their behavior occur, and that's what people like myself and hopefully not law enforcement has to step in.
Mhm. Well, you just explained some information that I didn't know too much about, but I do like how you just explained all that with the growing up, because I know my listeners out there, they're going to be curious as well.
Hope they can use the information because I guarantee who's ever listening has felt some form of distress. If my definition of if you live on planet Earth and you're a human being, you have felt it and potentially are feeling it currently.
That is true. Sleeping is very important for the human body. But if you or the individual have trouble sleeping, does stress has a factor?
Yes, stress will have a problem, will interfere in the individual's ability to get good sleep. Sometimes the anxiety level, it may be so high, the relaxation that's necessary to eventually get into sleep will be pretty difficult to get to. And sleep is so important. Sleep is vitally important. Our brains need to get into a deep sleep pattern in order to replenish itself. And if we're in a heightened state of stress and anxiety, it may be difficult for us to get into that level of sleep. We may find ourselves waking up periodically throughout the night. Because mentioned, the brain regenerates itself. And when it's doing that, it's doing it when we are in what's called REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep. And that's when we're also dreaming and usually pleasant dreams. If we have a great deal of stress on board based upon a situation within our life that's extremely stressful, we can actually begin to try to solve the problem in your unconscious mind that takes over during sleep times. And we have no control over that. If individuals have slept and find themselves running from something and you can't run fast enough, even though you're trying, usually something within your world is problematic and you can't get away from it. See, the subconscious mind doesn't pay attention to the laws of physics. It just pays attention to the emotional level that we're in. So if we do have a situation that consciously that we're unable to resolve is extremely stressful and anxiety provoking, unconsciously we may try to solve it, but in methods that don't adhere to the laws of physics. So yeah, sleep is vitally important to actually help us to reduce levels of stress if we're able to get into that deep REM sleep.
So deep REM sleep is very important that everybody should basically get, but not a lot of people are able to get REM sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people for a lot of different reasons. It could be physiological reasons, we have individuals who need sleep machines, the CPAP machines, because they have an issue with breathing that literally stops in the middle of the night and because of an a body situation, whether palate closes up, and EMT would have to be better able to describe that. But that's how been closely described to me. So the person at times literally stops breathing, and then there's in the body's desire to live will force the person to do it. And that's when you hear the snoring, or you hear the blah, 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 blah. You might hear all kind of sound because the body's trying to make the individual get back into breathing. And sometimes wives have reported rolling their husbands over, kicking them out of bed, because they're making all this noise while they are sleeping or actually snoring. And it can impact your heart condition. It can literally cause heart arrhythmias because the body is struggling so hard to survive that the heart is overworked during that time. So this is why we have these with sleep PAP machines that can help the airway stay open. They can get full air circulation. The body can rest now and get the sleep that the body and the brain need.
Well, since you mentioned about the CPAC and so on, I do know sometimes if you have sleeping problems, it can also be like a medical issue. And what I mean by like a medical issue, I got diagnosed with thyroid in 2010, and I started
Okay.
realizing it was affecting my sleep. And so I don't really get a good night's sleep all the time, like you basically saying, which I know a lot of listeners like me or any other medical situations, they might have the same problem.
Well, if you do, I highly recommend you go to an ENT, ear, nose, and throat doctor to get an assessment and make a determination because, as I said, it can affect your heart function. In all, if you're not getting adequate sleep, and if you are falling into the snoring, that sometimes literally stops the person from breathing, and the
Hmm.
body struggles there. Stress level climbs. You're sleeping, stress level climbs, and you're asleep or attempt to be asleep. So if you're having that problem, I highly recommend go see your primary care physician or see your ear, nose, and throat doctor to get a diagnosis, to get a determination, and what can assist you. Because once we do get that good night's sleep, man, it is absolutely fabulous because everything is working like it's supposed to work.
Hmm.
Stress will definitely negatively impact your ability to get a good night's sleep.
Wow. I have learned that for the last few years, and I know some people have learned that as well. What are the different stressors that affects the person the most?
Usually interaction with other people. That's usually the number one. Inability to get needs met. And sometimes the inability to get needs met depends upon what the need is. Also, inability to get wants met. And that one really takes a really, I'm going to use that term, a psychographic term, a cognitive issue. Because that particular thing that I want, I really, based upon the reality of my life, I might never be able to have. But some people sometimes push the envelope and force themselves into getting something, let's say that new, brand new car, knowing they can barely afford the note.
Yes.
Or in one point in time within the country, there was the process of individuals purchasing homes because the government wanted everybody to be able to buy homes. So some banks and lending institutions went into predatory lending, knowing this individual did not meet the credit criteria for this house, and they went into it with that type of mortgage that's attached to the prime rate, and if it went up, it went up. you
Yes.
know. So that would generate a lot of stress. So going after things just because we want them, or we should say keep up with the Joneses, will put a person in a highly stressful environment. They may have a momentary feeling of wondering because I got that brand new shiny car, but in 6 months, they got a pickup truck pulling up outside, hooking it up and pulling it away, because you weren't unable to afford the note. So those type of environmental, sociological conditions help to generate stress. Now, needs, that's a different issue. Needs are something that we need. If we don't have them, those would generate stress and anxiety for us as well. The inability to obtain a place to live, the inability to obtain nourishment, The inability to obtain social activity can generate a lot of stress and anxiety for us in helping us or causing us to really feel crappy about life in itself. A lot of
Mhm.
clients who I have secondary stressful issues on top of the conflicts they may be having with their immediate environment or immediate significant other.
That's a lot to really think of. And since you mentioned wants and desires, a lot of people want a lot of wants and desires, and when you can't get what you really want, it is very stressful.
Yeah, yeah. See, a lot of times, and one of the issues with that is people want it right now.
Yes.
Putting in the time, effort, and energy. Did I want what I have now when I was 25? Yes, I did. But was I ready? No, I was not. But you couldn't tell me that. Now that I've went through the years of development, of working for it and going through the steps, now I have what I want. But a lot of people would like it right now without doing the work. And that's a human thing. And that desire, that cognition that we're utilizing will generate the stress because when reality says, no, you can't have this, then they feel slighted. They feel like someone is doing them something wrong. So their stress level begins to build. But in reality, they really did it to themselves because they're not looking at reality. And one thing I tell a lot of people, reality does not care what I want, how I feel, or what I do. Reality doesn't care. Reality is going to happen, whether you like it or not. And if you attempt to stand in reality's way, it will roll over you and keep right on going. So accept reality, accept the fact that you have to work for something worthwhile. Go through the steps of working for it. And if you do the right thing for it, you're able to accomplish it. And thus, your stressful level for that desire can be reduced because you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if you're trying to get it in a rapid fire way without going through all the channels, you're going to generate a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety for yourself.
So basically, the person sometimes put their own self in that situation.
Yeah. A lot of people cause a lot of their problems themselves by not adhering to reality, wanting it quick, fast, and in a hurry. And I really think that's the thing people play. A lot of people play the lottery and gamble, and they're looking to get it quick.
Hmm.
And what I tell clients who I know have addictive problems, such as gambling, the casinos were not built to put money in your pocket. The casino were built to take money out of your pocket. And they
Hmm.
do a very, very good job. So if you have that cognition that you're going to win your rent money or you're going to win your house note, mm, no, that doesn't quite get it. And that would generate a lot of stress and anxiety, wanting something that reality says not going to happen.
Hmm. How can stress affect your health, and how can you fix this problem?
For health, like I mentioned before, having large amounts of unnecessary stress can eventually, I should say, will eventually affect you physiologically. That's going to happen because it could increase blood pressure, increase muscle tension, headaches, abdominal pain, cramping. It can definitely impact you from a physiological standpoint. And to do something about it, number one, we have to recognize it. As I mentioned, some people don't recognize it. Because there was a time when I didn't recognize it. And for some, I don't know, a lot of people I've run this particular example by. A lot of people probably don't have it anymore. But I remember when I was a younger man and I'm driving and I'm holding on the wheel, I'm going somewhere. When I get where I'm going, I look at my hand and the imprint of the steering wheel is in my hand. That meant I had a grip on that steering wheel based upon my level of stress, my level of anxiety at that moment. But consciously, we're not aware of it. During the 80s, there was a popular thing coming up called biofeedback machines, where companies would attach you to a lot of electrodes, run you through a series of potential scenarios, and then be able to measure your muscle stress level that you might not even recognize you're having. So they could educate you on being able to know that. Well, we don't have a lot of that anymore. what we do is have a lot of things in society that generate stress and anxiety. So some of the key points of it is if it really gets bad, if you find yourself having changes in your eating habits, changes in your sleeping habits, changes meaning you're increasing or decreasing. Suddenly, things that you enjoy are not that enjoyable anymore. You become moody, quiet, snapping at others. That's probably a sign of prolonged exposure to a lot of stress and anxiety, and that you have not addressed, have not done something about it. Things we can do about it. Physical exercise can help out a great deal. Realization of my cognitions, of my thoughts, and how they may not be working for me, and accepting that reality and moving forward, making plans based upon the reality. That can help reduce some of my stressful situations. Being real with myself, accepting myself as who I am. If I'm not the greatest thing since sliced bread, that's okay. That's okay. And if the neighbor next door has a brand new electric Cadillac, that does not mean I have to go out and buy a brand new electric Cadillac. You know, I'm satisfied with my little hoopty. I'm satisfied with that because a car, no matter what it is, gets you from point A to point B. You can have the most expensive electric vehicle, but if it can't get you from point A to point B, it's just a hunk of metal sitting in front of your house. So overly giving items in life more worth than what they actually are can generate a lot of stress and anxiety for a person trying to obtain that, you know. So being real with yourself, being real with your society, that will help you to reduce your stress and anxiety.
So, like everybody mostly just heard, be real with yourself and your stress will go down eventually. Well, I
Yeah.
heard you mention anxiety a few times.
Yeah.
Do you mind explaining what the difference is?
Okay. Well, stress is usually the precursor to anxiety. If I have too much stress, I'm eventually develop anxiety. And the anxiety is the thing that really negatively impacts my physiological state. You see, right now, where you're sitting, right now, your body's under a certain amount of physical stress because you're sitting. You're not in
Uh-huh.
a position, but your body adjusts. Your body make adjustments. Now, if you sat in that spot until tomorrow morning, would you be as comfortable in the exact same spot without moving? Would you be as comfortable?
No.
That's anxiety. See, anxiety shows up when we have prolonged exposure to stress. We start having aches and pains and difficulties, and life is not good anymore. That's when anxiety is kicking in. And anxiety will, like stress, prolonged stress, will take you down, and it will impact you physiologically, as well as any other physiological illness can. So anxiety is what happens when stress lasts too long in a particular area. So if you're feeling it, it's time to do something about it. Taking steps about it helps to reduce both the anxiety and eventually the stress. Routine activities, exercise. Certain exercises are really great for anxiety and stress. Yoga, cardiovascular. Some individuals do a lot of weightlifting, bicycle riding, walking, gardening is a great exercise to help reduce the stress. Also, cognitions, our thoughts. What are we thinking? What are we telling ourselves that is real, or should I say, not real? Because then that would generate some stress and anxiety for us as well. So having realistic concepts can help us to come down. Changing our thoughts about a particular situation that's generating discomfort for me. Changing that thought. If I'm did have a rough day, rough time at work that day, and the boss really got home and really gave me a hard time, I'm off on stuff and all frustrated. I come home and I go work in my garden. I'm so focused on the garden and pulling the weeds and doing this. There's a chance my mind will start thinking about the garden and not my boss.
Mhm.
And I begin to have a little peace. Now, some individuals utilize external substances to relieve stress.
Mhm.
Alcohol, drugs, bad idea, very bad idea. because those substances do not deal with the stress. It gives you a momentary relief, but whatever the issue was that generated the stress, it's still there. Plus, the substances have their own plans for you. It's called an addiction. Now, if you thought you had a problem before, now you got that problem plus this problem. Life didn't get any better. Some people say, I need to drink to go to sleep. Well, alcohol does not let you sleep. Alcohol knocks you out. And if you ever known anybody who was an alcoholic and gets 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, they wake up. Because the alcohol done wore off. And they wake up. They weren't asleep. They were knocked out. And REM sleep does not occur. So if you want to get some relief from stress and anxiety, do not use drugs and alcohol because you're not going to get it. And if I'm a firm believer that the only person I think I need to address my issues is me. If I need an external factor, I'm in trouble. Because one day I'm not going to be able to get my hands on that external factor. And what I do then? If I become addicted, what am I going to do now when I can't get it? So if I develop my own personal methods of reducing my stress and anxiety, I always got me. So I always got what I need. So I highly recommend focusing, altering your thoughts, altering your behavior patterns to give you a better outcome. Your stress and anxiety will be reduced.
And you explained that very well. And since you're saying about staying positive, I do know when you're around positive people, that can also help you out as well, correct?
Yes, yes. Wonderful, wonderful statement, Mike. Yes, being around positive people can also help us as well because they give us a sort of an energy, and then let us know it's going to be all right. It's going to be fine. And we tend to absorb some of their energy level, and to help us. And then they're actively engaged in behaviors that's being successful to them. If I can start mimicking some of that with their support, there's a good chance I'm going to be okay too. But it's just like hanging around with negative people. I will
Hmm.
absorb their image. Oh,
Hmm.
life is horrible. Life is bad. You ain't never get nowhere. If I'm hanging around with them kind of people, I'm absorb that. So yes, hanging out with positive people is a definitely good method of helping us to reduce stress and anxiety. Because positive people tell you, even this will pass.
And I totally agree with that. You might explain some of these questions, some of these answers already, but I still would like to ask you this question. What are some techniques you will suggest if a person is under a lot of stress to relax the mind?
Okay. There's a therapeutic approach called cognitive emotive therapy. And what it basically says is by changing the way I think, I change the way I feel. So let's pay attention to what it is you're thinking. What is you telling yourself? And is that a reality? So we have to examine that cognition, that thought pattern, to see how realistic it actually is. Now, if the thought pattern is realistic, it is of an unpleasant situation, then we start focusing on a solution. Not, and when people get into different argument with each other, they have 3 different potential outcomes. 2 of them are not good. One is I want to prove my point. A lot of people feel great if they didn't prove their point. The other one is I want to win the battle. Because if I win the battle, that must mean I'm on top. The third one is solving the problem. Well, see, number one, you can't prove your point to someone who does not want to agree with you. It is impossible unless they want to agree. And if you want to win the battle, and I feel sorry for the person who wins the battle, because if it is with a spouse or significant other, guess what the other person who lost the battle is going to wait for? They're waiting for the next battle so they can take a shot and try to win. So now I've just created an adversarial relationship. That's not what a relationship is supposed to be about. But let's focus on solving the problem. So if we focus on that, we look for what are the actual elements of the problem, what realistically resources do we have to address the problem, and if we don't have the necessary resources, can we attempt to acquire them? Every one of these steps is designed to deal with the problem, which brings us down. And you mentioned a priority list. If you have multiple difficulties, priority list works well. For the sake of, I've identified one problem at a time. Do not take on one, two, three, four, five issues at once. Try not to think of more than one problem at a time. Because if we are prioritizing and address that first issue with all our energy, if we get it resolved, we get a good feeling from solving the problem. We can take that emotion and apply it to problem number two and focus strictly on problem number two. So one time people catastrophize things because they get, well, see, this was going on, and this was going on too, and this was happening. The world just ain't no, well, see, you got too much going on there. Mm-hmm. Narrow it down to one problem. Focus on that problem. Now, I know a lot of people think that the multiple problems, all of them are equal and same. No, they're really not. My measuring stick for anyone who wants to use it is, what is the thing that would negatively affect my physical health? That's number one. The reason why I put that number one, because if my physical health go down, doesn't matter what else I got planned, because I'm not going to be around to deal with it.
That's true.
So, physical health, number one. If I'm married, my spouse, my relationship, number two. If I have children, my children, number three. Then I get into what it takes to maintain that, my home, my transportation. Then I get into outside things. If it's friends, relatives, well, they come in like fourth, fifth, sixth in my priority list. So I advise everyone, create your own priority list. And I highly recommend you put your physical health as number one. Because if it isn't, I don't care what other plans you got. Your physical health go down, all the rest of it is off to the side. So in reducing your stress, solve problems appropriately. Take time to deal with them. And always remember, all problems are temporary. They all are going to eventually go away. The question is, how did you assist it and what energy did you pull from it by the actions that you took? Because if you can do that, now you feel good about yourself. Now you feel like I can handle difficulties and hardships. How do I know? Because I just did it. Then we get to feel pretty comfortable. Stress level comes down.
Well, I know a lot of people do have problems in their life, and you do have to know how to take care of it. But sometimes it's very difficult for some people. So I do like how you explained it to prioritize what means the most. But you actually have to take the time to do it. Some people might feel like I don't have the time to do it, but just like you say, your life depends on it.
Yeah. Well, remember I mentioned about that the improper thought? I don't have time. Really? You don't have time. Okay. What you're doing isn't working. That's why you feel uncomfortable. So you don't have time to try to work your life out better. And that's what we try to help an individual, what we call cognitive challenging. I'm going to challenge that thought that you don't have time. Because I can point out to you where you have time. And literally, I've taken clients and we put a spreadsheet out of a week and take each day with hours of each day to see what they do. And guess what we find? We find time. Now, why you don't take the time is the next conversation that we will have. And that's the therapeutic approach. Because to have that thought, it's unrealistic. But it may feel that way because we can catastrophize things. We human beings, we do that. We turn a molehill into a mountain. And then we crush by that mountain. And in reality, it's bad. I'm not saying it's good, it's bad. But it's not mountainside. So why am I making it mountainside? And what steps can I take to reduce it? Because if it is mountainside, there was an old joke saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So that's how you take on the mountainside problem. One step at a time.
And that is definitely true. One step at a time. What chemicals in the brain trigger stress?
Okay. Well, there are a number of them, and one of the main ones that we have is norepinephrine. Norepinephrine is a neurotransmitter that's both a neurotransmitter and a hormone. And when we are stressed, the brain begins to secrete this particular chemical and hormone that generates that emotional reaction. Also, other chemicals, brain chemicals or neurotransmitters, such as dopamine, serotonin, epinephrine, are also other neurotransmitters that impact our stress level, are generated by a stress level. See, we basically are biochemical machines. And every emotion that we have is a brain chemical reaction. Most medications, especially individuals with anxiety problems, are designed to slow down neurotransmitters. Because when we slow it down, we slow down the anxiety. When we have a depressive situation, we take antidepressant medication, where they kick up the neurotransmitters. But antidepressants are not mood altering. You're never going to feel an antidepressant. Never going to feel it. You will feel anti-anxiety because they slow things down. There are
Mm-hmm.
also habit forms. Things like Xanax. It's habit form. Ativan. These kind of medications slow neurotransmission down because the person is really pumped up, really full of anxiety and stress. So they give them these meds to slow them down. But you got to be very cautious with them because they are addictive.
Mm-hmm.
They are very addictive. I've treated a number of people who came into substance abuse treatment because they were given prescription medication. So we got to be cautious with that. But it is the neurotransmitters that are the biochemical aspects of the brain that are associated with stress and anxiety.
Mm. So chemicals in the brain. That is something.
Yeah, yeah. We have them. That's how we do everything we do. Some researchers have done PET scans where they have actually been able to colorize certain chemicals in their release. When they do the PET scan and they introduce the client to a situation, they can literally see the wave of a chemical change flow across the brain that impact the individual mood, impact the individual's behavior. So, yeah, our brain chemistry controls everything. It controls everything we do. Brain chemistry and electronic impulses within the brain generated. A heightened stressful event, we know as a panic attack, is like a storm in the brain. It's an electrical storm that takes place in the brain, and everything is impacted by a seizure. I mean, just
Mm.
if you can see it, it's like an electrical storm that has lightning just going all over the place. And it impacts every part of the body. That's why the individual begins to tremble and shake, because every muscle is being impacted by that storm activity taking place within the brain. So, yeah, it's brain chemistry is extremely important. And one of the things that sucked me into this field was the function of the human brain, which controls everything.
Yes, the brain does control everything that you do. You explain things very well, but I have realized some of the questions I have really created are kind of
Yeah.
going backwards and forth what we're discussing. But I do believe all these questions I came up with is very important.
Yes, I thought they were as well, and because the topic has such overlapping aspects to it, yeah, we're gonna roll over some things, but I don't think that's a bad thing because it helps the listener to understand that that the multifaceted situations are interlocking in their cause, in their rationale, in their ways of being able to be addressed.
Mhm.
And in a basic learning environment, repetition, repetition, repetition. We're able to absorb. So your questions are about different things, but since the brain chemistry, or stress, anxiety, happiness, sadness, anger, frustration, disappointment, all of those are generated by brain functioning, which also are impacted by stress and anxiety.
Yes. Stress has multiple factors in our life. What are the underlying health issues with stress?
Okay. Physiologically, body-wise, heart conditions, muscle difficulties, bone and joint situations, dietary impact. We talk about sleep, and how it can be negatively impacted by over amounts of stress, upon us. Because it causes the body to tense. It causes the body to tighten up. And I'm gonna say something now that primarily a cardiologist probably better at it. So these things I'm saying that can be pretty much researched. Capillaries are the very tiny, tiny, tiny blood vessels that go out to send blood to all different parts of our bodies, fingertips, toes, and that kind of thing. When we really tense up, those capillaries can get shut off, which means now there's not enough blood flow in certain areas. Especially cardiac issues. It can definitely impact cardiac issues if we have an overflow of this situation. Now, for a short period of time, that's probably not going to be a problem. It's the prolonged nature. Like I mentioned earlier, you're sitting in a
Yes.
rather comfortable seat.
Yes.
Sit there until tomorrow morning. That seat ain't going to be that comfortable because the body is under a certain amount of physical stress right now based on the sitting where we're sitting. But it reroutes things, it adjusts to it. But it can't adjust to it indefinitely. Just like emotionally and physiologically, we cannot adjust to prolonged exposure of stress before something breaks down. It's not a matter of when. It's not a matter of how. It's a matter of when, because it's gonna get you.
I can agree with that one. What is considered good stress for our body?
All right, that's the one I want to get to. There's a stress level called eustress. EU stress. Eustress is what we receive when something positive is happening to us. When you get that date that you really want, you get all nervous and stuff about it, but you're happy about it. Or you buy that new car and you can afford the new car. You get all happy about it. Or you can buy that brand new house that you've been wanting. You get happy about it. Y'all stressful, but it's a happy stress. So we call it eustress. It's a positive reaction to environmental conditions that are pleasant to us and sometimes extremely pleasant. The surprise birthday party. You know, you know, but that's a warm cover coming over you. Friends are being supportive, to you. I was watching news last night, and some of the lady who lost her home got seriously damaged. I want to say in Hammond, I might be wrong about that. But the neighborhood came together and put the money to buy her a new roof for a house. Oh, she was all intent. And the interior house is still torn up. But she was in a good mood. She had something positive so she would feel with eustress at that moment. So eustress is a good stress. A stress that's a reaction, still reacting to our environment, but is one as a reaction to a pleasant environment. Winning a championship. Look, did you see the World Series end the other night?
Yes.
There were grown men crying their eyes out. But
Mm-hmm.
that was full of positive stress. They were so excited because that happened. There was one fellow, he looked like he was drunk. But he would tell everybody to come in the hotel room. His family's at home, he's at home. We're going to party in my hotel room for 3 or 4 days, All that's eustress. That's a positive reaction to some environmental condition that really met my wishes, wants, and desires.
So you got good stress and you got bad stress. The one that you
Yeah,
want always have is good stress, correct?
yeah, yeah. Now that's periodic. Okay, understand that particular stress periodic. I'm gonna use the word happiness. Happiness is what a lot of people strive for. Like everything I described for you, stress is happiness. But
Correct.
happiness comes and happiness goes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the reality of life on planet Earth. So if you're looking to be happy every day, all day, it is that thought pattern that's selling you down the river. But that's not going to happen. I don't care if you're Elon Musk, if you the people flying to the place, if you're the fellow living under the bridge. There's no one going to maintain a happy state all the time who does not have some form of mental illness. And I have to put it that way because life is difficult. Life is a problematic thing. We get that feeling from overcoming a difficulty in life.
Mhm.
And again, I don't care who you are. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much charisma you have. There will be periods of time where you're going to be bummed out. And I look at that as a balancing act. Because how could you appreciate goodness if you don't know what badness is?
Mhm. That is true. You do got to know the good and the bad. Well, this next question is going to be a little different. It's going to mostly focus on like race and the population. And
Okay.
another thing about it, I came up with it because mental issues are very high in minority population. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I kind of want you to explain a little bit about that.
Okay.
And because one time I had a listener, she was saying, I think you should try to focus on mental health. Well, I knew I was going to do one part of mental health, and one part of it is stress. That does that
Yeah.
fit in the category?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. A great deal of mental health issues, even biochemical mental illnesses, such as schizophrenia, bipolar, true bipolar, do generate stress and anxiety for the individual going through it. Because number one, they don't want to go through it. They don't want to have
Hmm.
this. So the fact that they have it causes them emotional difficulty.
Hmm.
So yeah, definitely stress is definitely part of the whole mental illness situation. As far as race is concerned, if you're African American, if you Hispanic American, if you are Asian American, you are in a society that tends to discriminate against you. It is discrimination that causes you not to be able to obtain the goods and services that you so richly deserve. It is the inability to obtain the goods and services that you deserve that will generate stress. Sometimes we will label the stress as different emotions: anger,
Hmm.
frustration, disappointment, you know. But those are all responses to environmental conditions that are not allowing you to achieve the things that you have maybe worked for, you have
Hmm.
earned, that you were told if you did this, this is what you would get, and it doesn't happen.
Hmm.
So I do believe that all minority groups living in America, and I'm not nothing against America, I'm just being realistic,
Hmm.
are under a certain form of traumatic stress based upon our inability to be equal totally across the board. And that will generate, for some individuals, some serious mental health issues where they act out and they begin to engage in inappropriate behaviors because the emotion that they receive from not being treated fairly overwhelms them. They push consequences to the side and they act on their own. So
Hmm.
both mental health and crime.
So that really is a different factor on it when it comes to race and so on. So it really does have a factor in it. You basically answered the question, so I'm not gonna really basically say that question, but I'm gonna take
Okay.
this interview a little differently here, since we've been in this pandemic,
Yeah.
and also like here, there's a lot of different national disasters just coming around back and forth. Have you seen like clients who seem like they can't deal with the situation and they're
Yeah.
trying to ask you what's the best way to do, how to deal with
Yeah.
it? What
Yeah. I
type
have a
of
number
things
of
have you
clients. Yeah.
have what type of
I've,
information are you gave them?
okay. Well, number one, we have to accept the difficulty of the situation. We have to accept the reality. Is that pleasant? No, it's not. Not pleasant at all, but it's real. See, a lot of the uncomfortable stress comes when individuals attempt to avoid the real. Real isn't going anywhere, as I mentioned earlier. Reality
Mhm.
isn't good. Don't care what we think, we feel, or what we want. Reality is going to happen. So, because when we go through situations that, like what Storm did to us, it's like a grief issue, or what we
Mhm.
call loss.
Mhm.
Loss has five emotional components to it. Denial, it's hard for me to believe this has happened. Bargaining, what do I need to do to make this not happen? Anger, because it's going through it, it's not moving, going away. Depression, because it looks like nothing I can do about it. then finally acceptance. Okay. So going through the different losses in life, and a lot of individuals that lost friends, family, relatives to the pandemic. A lot of individuals lost their homes, their neighborhoods, their friends, their relations based upon the storm. And that's on top of the stresses that were here already.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've treated a number of people here recently that were come to me based upon the pandemic, the major changes in life the pandemic caused for them. I'm talking about drastic changes in life.
Mm-hmm.
Physiological changes, occupational changes, relationship changes, have come because of the difficulty that these things have generated. People have come because they've lost someone,
Mm-hmm.
because of the pandemic. People have come because they are stressed out based upon the storm, and insurance companies and the people come out to evaluate your home and not giving you enough of your home, and those are expectations that I'm going to get more out of this than what they're going to give me. But we got to understand the reality. Insurance companies is a business just like the casinos, and that's my cynical opinion, to remove money from your pocket,
Mm-hmm.
not to put money in your pocket. You do not see signs. You see signs of casinos saying Mary Sue from the Plaza won $15,000.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you don't see them 5,000 people who lost $2,000-3,000 each. You don't see them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So you're under the impression that this is going to be a positive thing. And when you attempt it, it generates a great deal of stress and anxiety for you. I've dealt with a lot of individuals who are addicted, not just to substances, but also to behaviors such as gambling. You know? So yeah, the two, mental illness, stress and anxiety, are definitely connected when individuals cannot get their needs, wishes, wants, or desires met.
Well, you explained a whole lot, but I like how you basically explained the situation. Because with this COVID situation, it basically uprooted a lot of people's lives and didn't know what they want to go doing forward. But some people was able to handle it, and some people wasn't. That's just basically how
Yeah,
life is.
yep, you're absolutely right about that. Now, just mention about that. That's called coping skills.
Hmm.
Some of them have better coping skills than others, you know. And those who have healthy coping skills will recognize in this too shall pass. Those who don't have good coping skills will catastrophize it and make it look like the worst thing since God flooded the planet. So and then they feel hopeless and helpless, which really exacerbates the situation as it is. And I mean, I even went through it at one point in time. It wasn't that big a serious situation. I had an instructor who told me he was going to flunk me because I couldn't get to class on time. And this is really way back, so anybody listening to this, you understand. There was only one bridge at the time. I lived in Monroe, had to go to Suno. I had to drop my kids off at the nursery at 7:30 in the morning. I had an 8 o'clock class. There's no way you get in Suno through the bridge traffic at 8 o'clock in the morning. So I'm rolling in at 8:15, 8:20. So he finally told me he's gonna flunk me. He's my best instructor. I said, man, look, I rolled in my story to him. He said, yeah, I understand. I got you. He said, come in one more time, I'm flunk you. I said, hold up. I mean, did you hear me? He said, yeah, I heard you. I understand. He retold my whole story,
Mhm.
you know. And he said, come in one more time, I'm gonna flunk you. I mean, I was flabbergasted.
Mhm.
I was blown away. I mean, like, well, wait a minute, you know what the problem is, and you gonna still cut me down?
Mhm.
What he was teaching me was I had to figure out how to solve my problem because there was an answer. But as long as I stuck to my way of thinking, I locked myself into thinking I could not solve this problem. So my mental health declined, my stress level went up, and I was all bummed out. But I figured out. The girlfriend I had at the time, she saw me, I was all bummed out. So she said, what about talking to my sisters? I said, what about your sisters? It might help out. So I talked to them. They agreed to take my kids at 7 o'clock in the morning. Problem solved. But as long as I was locked into my depressive anxiety state, I
Mhm.
couldn't think about that. So sometimes seeking assistance will help me identify solutions I didn't think I had. So when we catastrophize something, is it the way we're thinking, or is it truly that serious of a problem?
So basically, coping skills is very important to have
Yeah,
in this day and age.
yeah, extremely important, extremely important. And when you don't have them, seek assistance. There's nothing wrong with you talking to somebody about your problem. You don't have to be a professional such as myself. Like at the time, I didn't talk to professionals. I talked to my basically my sister-in-law. And they came up with an idea. Wow, you know, I thought I was the smart one. But you never knew that. So never keep your problems to yourself. Talk to somebody you can trust. Express yourself to them. They may be able to help you out. If no more than just listening to you, they may be able to help you out, and that can help reduce a lot of stress and anxiety. Because a lot of people, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. Worst thing you can do is not talk about when you're stressed out. The worst thing you can do. Because now you're locked in with all that uncomfortable emotion. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about it, you're letting it out. Mm-hmm. You're getting it out of you. And the more you get the uncomfortable emotion out, the more your thinking capacity comes up. The more your thinking capacity come up, the more you're able to figure out a solution to your problem.
Well, we have came to the end of this interview. I basically want to ask you what you thought about the questions and how you think how it went.
I thought the questions were pretty good, Mike. You did good. You did
Thank you.
Very good with those questions. And when I read through this and you got to the biochemical, I said, oh, you hit it on the head. I think your listeners have a great person to cut into areas that they would need to know that they themselves may not think about. Mm-hmm. Because I had to really process when I read, okay, my God, this is going to be a good. I went and did a little extra research just to make sure,
Uh-huh.
And I like that because it makes me work. Anything that's going to make my juices flow, I'm all in. And you let my juices flow. So I'm all in. I thought your questions were on time, especially given the nature of the topic. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed the interview, and I'm glad that I had some good questions that had you thinking and had our listeners learn a little bit more about stress. Because I have told some people that this was going to be the next episode, and a lot of people said, "Oh, that's a really good episode. I can't wait to listen to it."
Let's hope they get what they were hoping for.
Yes. Before we go, can you let everyone know how to contact you?
Well, you can contact me by calling my office. Sim Social Services, the company's name. And the office number, the area code is 504-362-9010. 504-362-9010. If we cannot help you, we will direct you to someone who can.
Do you have an email address they can contact you as well by?
Well, we usually use my email address, but they can contact me also through Psychology Today, and they will do the contact with me. And I'm with you with my email address. My office manager rides my butt about some of the emails I'm getting in that she got to get in and clear out. But we do have, and I'm sorry I don't remember because it's the front desk email for Sim Social Services, and unfortunately, I don't use that very much, so I'm not aware of it. But if they call the number, we will be glad to give you that number. Or go through Psychology Today, and they have a way of reaching out to us as well. So call in the office, go to Psychology Today, and that will probably be the very best way of reaching me because unfortunately, I'm very bad at checking my email. That's why my office manager, she's the one that really goes through it and lets me know when I need to look at something.
Well, all that is understandable. You're a very busy person, and I appreciate you by doing this interview.
Sure, not a problem, not a problem.
Well, once again, Victor Sims, thank you for being a part of Consulting Between Friends podcast.
You're more than welcome, my friend. Anytime.
Thank you. In closing, The topic on stress was very important to understand, a part of mental health which we all deal with in our lives. Stress is a major problem that affects multiple people. I hope the way I've broken down stress, listeners have a better understanding on what causes stress and how to resolve stress, as well as professional advice from a social worker by the name of Victor Sims Sr. By hearing his advice on stress, I hope you, the listeners, have a better understanding on how stress can affect you or someone you know. One last thing, remember to support Black business owners. And if you or someone you know deals with stress, always talk your problems out to someone you trust or seek professional help. Consulting Between Friends has some exciting news to announce to all the listeners. In October, Consulting Between Friends went past 1,000 downloads. I say it again, 1,000 downloads. And I have something to say about that. Thank you to all my family, friends, and all other supporters for the success of the podcast. Without your support, the achievement would not have happened. Thank you for listening to Consulting Between Friends. This podcast is available on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts, as well other platforms that are available. So like and subscribe. Need to contact us and leave us a comment? You can find us on Instagram at Consulting the letter B Friends. Once again, Consulting B Friends. An email address is consulting the letter B Friends at gmail.com. Once again, consulting B Friends at gmail.com. Consulting Between Friends. Thanks to everyone for making this possible. Your host, Michael Holmes Jr. and co-host Shay R. Jones. The producer and content creator, Michael Holmes Jr. Artwork cover, Michael Holmes Jr. Original music, a DJ name / references, healthline.com. Special guest, Victor Sims Sr., social worker, Sims Associates LLC. Contact, psychologytoday.com. Content distributor, Power 77 Radio.